Hey guys, how's it going? Sorry, I'm just testing this out, making sure it works. First time using some new software and all that. So, how's everybody doing? Sorry, I'm just seeing how all this looks. Let's see. All right, cool. Hello, everybody. Feel free to go ahead and leave some Spanish questions in the chat. Welcome to the Michael Harper Spanish Show. So this is basically a new show. Also, let me know, I imagine you can hear me well. Yeah, you can. Okay, so I was just doing a quick audio check. So yeah, thanks for being here, everybody. Using some new software today. So basically, what we're going to do is a Q&A. Then we're going to do some listening practice with some breakdown and then some reading and vocabulary practice. So if you just bear with me a moment. By the way, I'm also streaming this live on YouTube, my YouTube channel, Michael Harper Spanish. So you'll probably get a better viewing experience if you go over there. So go over to YouTube, subscribe to the channel while you're there. And yeah, we'll be going over a lot of different stuff today, so really excited. So this is the new show called the Michael Harper Spanish Show. It's something I've been wanting to launch for a long time now, years, and I'm finally in a place where I feel like I can actually do it. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I don't know, this is probably going to turn into like a daily thing, maybe. It could be more. In a second, we'll share a screen. We'll do some different listening practices. We're going to read an article together. I'm going to show you some tips on, how I would improve reading and my vocabulary and how I would also improve my speaking. So again, it would be probably better for you if you go on over to YouTube, and I'm live on YouTube. I think that you'll just get a little bit more out of it, to be honest. But give me 1 second while I'm if you can bear with me for a second, just while I'm setting up a lot of this stuff. It's kind of like a test run too today. I mean, not a test run. It is, we're going to do a good show here, but first time trying out a lot of different new software. So just want to make sure that everything's running properly. But yeah, guys, feel free, please, I see a lot of you guys joining in, which I really appreciate. So feel free to go ahead and leave any comment or question that you may have in the chat, any Spanish question whatsoever. I'm going to get those answered in the beginning. So this first part is just for a Q&A, and then we're going to go into a sort of an interactive listening practice together. Feel free to ask any question throughout the entire stream today. And that's that. Let's see. I had a question here. Let me see if I can get to it. So how to improve writing? I think that you mean, writing section. I think you mean how to improve writing in general. Writing and speaking kind of go hand in hand. Why? It's because I'm going to assume that you just mean like writing as in texting someone, but you could mean like just writing maybe essays or something a little bit more formal, which is fine. But my biggest tip for that is, speaking and writing go hand in hand because you're forming sentences. You're having to actually physically make these sentences and whatnot. So just talk to people, just think of what do you want to say in English? What do you type and write in English? Say it in Spanish and write it up in Spanish. I used to take notes in like history classes in English. And so maybe you could start just incorporating writing into your everyday life. Start everything that you write normally in English, write it in Spanish. All right, guys, so feel free to leave in the comments, whether you're on YouTube or Instagram, any questions, any Q&A that you may have, and we're going to answer those questions now, and then we're going to do a couple of other exercises. While you're here, while we're waiting on some questions, if you haven't checked it out already, I've got a free training about my 3 strategies and my methodology to become fluent in Spanish within a year. So just go to the first link in my bio on Instagram and you'll be able to check that out. But by the way, if you are here on Instagram, I will tell you that this viewing experience is probably going to be a little bit better on YouTube. So if you're on Instagram, highly encourage you to go hop on YouTube, it's going to be just a little bit easier to watch. You can subscribe to the channel while you're there. But yeah, guys, got the live chat here. So please leave some comments in the live chat. Please let me know any questions you have. I've got a question here from MP 2024. Having difficulty defining the forms of speech. Could you give examples in English of, for example, what is subjunctive, what is imperative, etc.? Let me think of the best way to kind of answer your question. So I'm gonna put this over to the side for now. So we're gonna come back to that. For now, I want to try to think of. Let me try to read your question again. So forms of speech. This live session will be recorded, by the way, on YouTube and on Instagram, so you can check it out if you're not able to watch it now. And I'm gonna try to make this a daily thing. This is gonna hopefully be a daily show, Monday to Friday. If I seem a bit all over the place, I do apologize. I hope that you bear with me a little bit. I mean, this software is acting ridiculous. I'm trying to make sure that it's all working right now. This will get better. This show will not be as terrible as it is today. All right. So when you're talking about forms of speech, I think that's what you're trying to say, MP, is how do I know when to use subjunctive? How do I know when to use conditional? How do I know when to use imperfect past or preterite past or all this other stuff? And if I'm looking at something like the subjunctive, what I'm going to look at is what phrases and what forms of speech, kind of like what your question said, will trigger the use of that, right? So if I have a phrase like I want you to go. So this is the type of phrase that we can't translate it word for word from English to Spanish. Okay, we can't say quiero tu vas. This is wrong. This just doesn't sound right. What we have to do is with this type of phrase, we have to rephrase it, and we're going to use the subjunctive. So we have to rephrase this so that it says, I want that you go. And this would be quiero, just like before. The first part is right. And then that means que. And then you go will be conjugated in the subjunctive. So it's kind of like a formula you can do. So when I first learned, and by the way, by yes is the subjunctive form for vas, you go. So when I learned about the subjunctive, I got really frustrated because at that point I had already learned, all the different past tense. I felt fluent, honestly, in everything. I could do the conditional. I could say what I would do, what I would like to do. I could say all these different things. And then I found out that the subjunctive is a completely different way of conjugating verbs. I wanted to quit right then. I did not want to keep on going. I got super frustrated with Spanish. I didn't want to do it anymore, honestly. I almost quit. And thank goodness I didn't, because then I kind of unpacked it. When you look up initial videos of like what the subjunctive is in Spanish, you see all of these grammar rules, all of these definitions, and it seems very overwhelming. But when you really break it down, it's like, okay, there's only like 5 to 10 really common situations that are actually going to trigger this thing where I actually need to be able to use it. And the conjugations are very similar to what I already know. And so it got easier that way. So I hope that this kind of answers your question. Just go at your own pace. Keep trying to translate things in your everyday life. And when you come across situations like this, just try to practice them over and over again until it becomes a little bit more natural to you. Quiero que hables conmigo was a perfect. So this comment here, hables conmigo, I want you to talk to me. If you notice, this is also the same thing. Like, I want that you go. I want that you talk to me. And instead of saying hablas, which is the present tense normal way to say you talk, we're saying hables with an E. So it becomes subjunctive. And this is just one of the phrases that'll trigger it. There's other phrases like I told him, for example, le dije. But if you wanted to say I told him to verb, like I told him to do something, I told him to cook, I told him to eat that, or whatever it may be, it's going to be le dije que. I told him to eat. It would be comiera. It's just this plus subjunctive equals this type of phrase. And that's how I looked at it, from a very like, okay, just how do I use it, right? I don't care about what it is conceptually. I just want to know, how the heck do I use this thing in regular conversation? So, by the way, here's the schedule. Keep letting in your questions. We'll do a few more minutes of Q&A. I'm working on which time of day is better for this. I'm probably going to start doing some of these at night. There's a small chance that I go live tonight as well for you guys, just to see if I get more viewers in here. I know a lot of you are working, but we're going to do a little bit of a Q&A. We're going to do some listening practice in just a second if all the questions are answered, and then we're going to do just we're going to look at an article, which is what you might see up here. No, I'm not reading an article up here just about Trump. It's actually to help you guys. I'm going to give you some tips on what I used to do when I was practicing, like reading and vocabulary. So we'll get to that in a second as well. Te vayas o vayas. If it's just you go in the subjunctive, it's just vayas. Te vayas is kind of like saying te vas. So the difference between saying vas and te vas is you go. Te vas is like you leaves. You go, you work here, and like you go out from that place. If I say, te vas, it's like you're going away or you're leaving. And so same thing here. It's the same meaning. It's just this is subjunctive, versus this is not subjunctive. So I want you to leave could be quiero que te vayas. Like, I want you to get out of here. But I want you to go somewhere. That's vayas. Can you talk about when to use a in front of a verb or a pronoun? Absolutely. So, as typically just when we say the word to in English, and you pretty much are always going to use it in Spanish, pretty much word for word, except for when you have two verbs stuck together. So if you say to followed by a verb, so you've got the word to plus a verb, you don't use this a. Don't put the a there. Sorry, I'm still getting used to like this whiteboard software, so that I'm sorry about this. Just bear with me. So if I wanted to say I want to go, it would be quiero ir. It would not be quiero a ir, because this ir in its non-conjugated complete form implies that the word to is here. So the whole part of to go is actually ir. If I wanted to say he wants to eat, it would be quiere comer. We would not say quiere a comer. Now, if I say something like he wants to travel to Greece, or let's say Italy, because I actually want to go to Italy soon, I would say quiere viajar a, I almost put Grecia, Italia. So we've got to travel, right, which is just viajar. So kind of like what we were talking about earlier. We've got these two verbs together, and we've got the word viajar in its non-conjugated form, its complete form. It's to travel. So the to, the a, is implied that it's there. And we put to Italy because we're talking about a destination. We're talking about where we are going to. I'll try to think of more examples of that. But by the way, guys, whether you're in YouTube or in Instagram, feel free to leave any question in there. And if you're on Instagram, you might have a slightly better viewing experience over on YouTube. So feel free to go over there and subscribe. Feel free to keep on leaving your questions in. We're going to do a little bit of a speaking practice while we do this. So this is not just your typical, like, the Spanish podcast where you've got your speaking practice and then sort of like a breakdown. I'm going to try to do it a little bit better. Tommy, if you're on YouTube, the questions are coming from Instagram. So I'm live simultaneously on Instagram and YouTube. This application that I'm using is supposed to let me put all of the comments up on the screen like this, except it's not letting me do that. None of the comments show up. So that's why I'm kind of all over the place today. I'm going to try to get this fixed. So I'm really sorry. But thanks for being here anyway. So yeah, what we're going to do is I'm going to say this again, over and over again. By the way, if you're on YouTube, you'll be able to rewind as well, or this will also be recorded and posted onto YouTube and Instagram. So I'm going to say this over and over again, and then we're going to do a vocabulary breakdown, but I'm going to show you how you can take phrases like this and make them your own. Because to me, not just to me, this is a fact. The best way to practice Spanish is to speak it. So speaking is way more powerful than you sitting here listening to me speak in Spanish, right? And speaking will actually make your listening even better. So what I mean by that is, yeah, I can sit here and say, te voy a contar un poco sobre mi rutina diaria. And it's like, great. Okay. You might have understood that. You might understand it if you hear it 5 times over and over again, or if you get the vocabulary down. But hey, at the end of the day, how does that help you when you actually go to speak and you want to be able to say this in Spanish to somebody? Okay, so I want you to take these types of phrases, take these verbs, and make them your own. So, this, by the way, means I want to tell you a bit about my daily routine. So, if I were you, I would maybe have some notes and write down like some useful verbs that you see yourself using in different situations. So, you might say, I see myself saying this phrase, te voy a contar, but I also see myself saying, I want to, other verb. I want to eat chicken today. I want to walk my dog today. And so what you can end up doing is you can take a phrase like this, te voy a, you can commit it to muscle memory, or just voy a, right? Or voy a verb. So if I got voy a contar down like that, it's just muscle memory. I don't even have to think about it. Then all I've got to do whenever I want to say anything else similar to that is just throw in a different verb that I know. Like if I want to go, hey, I want to walk my dog today, I'm just like, boy, maybe I don't know the verb, maybe I look it up. But if I do know the verb, all I've got to do is just copy and paste. Voy a pasear dog, I know is perro, hoy, something like that. And at least you got some sort of conversation going naturally. So like, that's the thing that people freak out over in Spanish is they go, how do I how to become a better speaker? It's like you've got to commit things to muscle memory. How do I stop translating everything in my head? You got to get things committed to muscle memory. So I'll say this. I'll go over the story a little bit. I'll say it. We already got this part, so te voy a contar un poco sobre mi rutina diaria. I want to say this part slow, and then I'll speed it up again. Normalmente me despierto a las 7. Me levanto, me baño y tomo café. All right. So normally I wake up. And we've got 3 different reflexive verbs here. So what are reflexive verbs? I'm also going to figure out how to get rid of all of these errors. So again, first stream of the Michael Harper Spanish show. Bear with me. But we've got different reflexive verbs. Reflexive verbs, I call them mirror verbs. They're reflexive. When you go in front of a mirror, it's a reflection, so you see yourself. So it's an action that you do to yourself. I wake up. I do that on myself. I do that on my own. That's a reflexive verb. I do it to myself. Nobody else woke me up. If someone else had woken me up at 7 o'clock, that would not be reflexive. I would have said me despertaron. I wouldn't have said me desperté. I would have said they woke me up. But since I did it, I say I wake up. If I say I wake my dog up, then it would be despierto a mi perro. I would not say me despierto, se despierta. No, because I'm waking someone else up. I'm waking my dog up. So I wake up at 7. It's really my dog waking me up at 7. I get up, again, reflexive verb. That's why we have this me here. It's not just levanto. If I were to say I got my dog up, then it wouldn't be reflexive again. But since I'm getting myself up, I get up, it's reflexive. So maybe that helps you with reflexive verbs in the future. Me baño. I shower. Nobody else is showering me. Okay. And I drink coffee. Okay. And just drinking is not a verb that we're going to make reflexive. That's not an action that we do to ourselves. We're drinking coffee. We're not drinking ourselves. Okay. So that's why we don't put like a me tomo here. Again, guys, feel free to leave any questions in the chat that you may have. Hop on over to YouTube for a better streaming experience, by the way, and subscribe while you're there. Luego, so there's 2 ways to say after or next. You've either got luego or you've got después. This is supposed to have an accent mark there. Let me just go ahead and put that there. Después. This is how you say after. Never use entonces. I don't know why. Like a lot of people, I did the same thing. I would type in Google Translate, how do you say next or how do you say afterwards? And it would say entonces. And it's like, that's not how you say it. You actually want to say luego or después. Luego means later, and then después means after. But depending on the context, it can also mean next. Like the next thing I did was I made my breakfast. Preparo mi desayuno. And you could technically use this. So this is like I prepare my breakfast or I make my breakfast, right? And you could technically make this reflexive. It would just change slightly the meaning. So instead of it being like, hey, preparo mi desayuno, like I prepare my breakfast, it would sound more like if I were to say me preparo mi desayuno, I prepare myself breakfast. So it's just a bit more maybe intimate. Quick question from MS Stroberg. Is it correct that if you include how many coffees you drink, you add me? I wouldn't say it like that necessarily. No. Um, a lot of times when you've got, oh, that helped get rid of that stuff. A lot of times when you say eat and drink and you make it reflexive, like if I say como mucho, oh, I'm going to use the past tense, comí pollo. Let's say el pollo. So I ate the chicken versus me comí el pollo. Both are right. I don't know why people make it reflexive because it's like I ate the chicken. It's like not like I ate myself the chicken, right? That's what this feels like. But for some reason, there's like an exception when it comes to reflexive verbs. With when it comes to eating and drinking, it sounds almost like when you make it reflexive, it's like I devoured the chicken or I ate all of it, or if I were to be like, "Hey, me tomé el café," it kind of just makes it feel different, I would say, but they're both right, so I wouldn't freak out about that. So let's just do this so that we don't get those crazy things in there. So we kind of went over I don't know what happened there, but we're just going to go with it. So we've got afterwards, I make my breakfast. That normally consists of yogurt with granola. That's pretty straightforward, right? Que normalmente consiste en yogurt con granola. To say consists with, it's just consiste en Spanish. Después, after, empiezo a trabajar. I start to work. Trabajo mi computador por varias horas. Computer, I mean, there's so many different, like, you could say laptop, trabajo mi laptop. You could say computador. Depending on which country you're from, people might say computadora, and it'll be a feminine word. I don't know why. It's just the way it is with that word. For various hours is a very good way to say, like for a time frame, for a lengthened amount of time. So you could say varios días, like I've been working on this project por varios días, for various amount of days or a lot of days. Por varias horas, for a lot of different hours. Hasta que termine todas mis tareas del día. So we're kind of talking about subjunctive and phrases that trigger the subjunctive earlier. This is going to be one of them. Until that I finish. So to say until something, you're going to make that next verb conjugated in the subjunctive. And the technical, like conceptual reason, if maybe you're like a conceptual guy, kind of like me, you want to know why this works the way it is with reflexive verbs, maybe that tip helped you from before. Subjunctive is for things that aren't real. That didn't help me in the beginning. It helped me a lot more to just memorize phrases that'll trigger it. But technically, until something happens, it's not real, which is why this is going to trigger the subjunctive. All right, so we've got en la tarde, trato de hacer ejercicio por una hora. There's two different ways to say to try. All right, so we've got, and I get this question a lot, so it's probably worth visiting. We've got intentar, and we've got tratar de. You can use either one of these. They're literally interchangeable. Just make sure that when you use tratar, you add that de there. Why? No clue. Just the way it is. Tratar, you can also use this phrase se trata de, to say it is about. Like if you're talking about a book, este libro se trata de whatever. This book talks about or is about whatever. I don't know why. Again, it's just the way it is. It can also mean to treat, like a nurse or a doctor treating someone. Like, hey, the doctor is treating him right now, lo está tratando ahora. Por la noche ceno con mi esposa. Y luego, so again, we're using that luego or después word to say then, not entonces. Entonces means like so. So, ceno con mi esposa y luego vemos una serie juntos antes de dormir. So I eat dinner, cenar. By the way, this goes for all different meals. You've got a verb like cenar, which means literally to dinner. La cena is the dinner. And you could also say comer la cena, which is eat the dinner. But there is a verb for literally to dinner, which is very common. Same thing with almuerzo. Almuerzo means lunch. That and it comes from the verb almorzar, which means to lunch. So you can say comer el almuerzo, to eat the lunch. You could say almorzar, which literally means to lunch. So there you go. Any questions, guys? Feel free to leave any question in the chat, whether you're on Instagram or you're on YouTube. This is going to start to be probably a daily show. I might go live tonight again with this. But yeah, we're about to go over just a quick reading and vocabulary practice. That was a little bit of listening. Again, do want to say I'm sorry that I am a bit all over the freaking place today. New streaming software, a lot of it's not working properly, which is it's hard to like concentrate on teaching and some of the questions because I'm also trying to fix, I'm streaming simultaneously on YouTube and Instagram. And so I've got a lot of different moving parts. So I will get better. I won't be as all over the place. You won't notice my ADD as much. I actually do have ADD, but you won't notice it as much in the next few episodes. So feel free to drop any questions or just say, hey. Thank you guys for being here, by the way. And if you haven't already, I do have a free training just while we're waiting on any other questions. Free training where I just go over my methodology, my 3 strategies, and how to become fluent in Spanish this year. If you're serious about learning Spanish and speaking Spanish with people, highly encourage you to check it out. If you're on YouTube, the link will be in the description of this live session. If you're on Instagram, just hop on over to the first link in my bio. But nice to see all of you guys. We're going to hop on over to an article. Let's talk about Trump. I'm just kidding. I just know that this is a very, very useful thing to talk about, and I'm a big advocate of, hey, let's talk about things that are useful in Spanish. Like you're probably, I imagine you might talk about politics every day. You might talk about different things. So. Yo-yo español, you want to say cuándo será la próxima vez. Ser, to be, instead of estará. You got everything else right. You even got the future tense right. That was a really good comment, but you just want to say cuándo será. I can't wait till I can pop up these comments on the screen. I don't know why it's not working, but la clase, by the way. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how I analyze articles. I used to read like BBC and even CNN articles in Spanish just because I felt like it was a good way to get vocabulary. And I would do it like just in downtime when I was... It's like I used to when I was in college and I'd be on like the bus between classes and whatnot. I'd just pull out my phone and be reading a couple of articles. Maybe while you're waiting for something at the airport, you can read a little bit. If you don't know what to practice, this is a good way. And I think that there's some valuable lessons to be had when it comes to this article. For example, Trump, people say Trump like that. Trump sigue su arremetida. I've never heard of this word. So I'm going to say, hey, in English, what is this word? And I know what it is now, but before I didn't. Assault. And so sometimes this is a big lesson that like the first thing I wanted to get across is you don't have to know and understand everything. You don't have to know every single word in the Spanish language to be fluent. You don't have to know everything to be able to communicate properly. And a lot of times with news articles, they're going to use, like if I read an article in the New York Times, it's not easy to read that, right? It takes an advanced level of English to be able to read and understand every single word. So even in English, it's going to be hard, let alone in your second language. So don't stress and don't think that you have to understand everything. Even if you understand every other word, like you'll get there. And the more that you read these news articles, the better you're going to get to. So sigue su arremetida, sorry, contra Harvard, against Harvard, saying es un chiste, enseña odio y estupidez, no debería recibir fondos federales. So I actually like this phrase a lot because not because I necessarily agree with it, or I don't know anything about this, by the way, but because it's got a lot of useful words and verbs. Es un chiste. It's a joke. Like think of how many times in your life every day you could actually apply that and use it for yourself. Es un chiste. Enseña odio y estupidez. He teaches. It teaches, he teaches, she teaches, whatever the subject is. In this case, I imagine that it's Harvard. So Harvard teaches hate and stupidity, estupidez. I always like to say the word que estupidez. So whenever you say in Spanish the word que followed by like an adjective, it could be something like que bello, how beautiful, que estúpido, or que estupidez, to say how stupid is that. So it's pretty useful for you to use. The word debería, should, I mean, think of how many times you should be using that every day. So it shouldn't. Recibir, pretty easy to figure that out. Receive federal funding. We might not even get to the rest of this article. I'm just showing you what you need to do when you read, because here's what most people do when they read Spanish. And this is why it's not effective practice a lot of times, because they'll just go, and then they read the article and they're like, I'm done, right? But then you ask them to summarize it, you ask them to talk about it, and they can't. But even if you don't want to summarize or talk about this article, here's what you need to do to get the most practice out and the most quality practice out of these articles. So we just took one sentence here, and I can practice for an hour with this stuff. I could say, I could use, my point of this is that you want to take these verbs, vocabulary, and everything else, and these phrases, and use them in your own life. So think of how many times throughout your day, whether it was what's already happened today, what happened yesterday, what might happen tomorrow, when can you use the phrase es un chiste? Or when can you use the phrase to make up a joke? Or I'm going to tell you a joke. Like there's just 3 phrases out of that. The teach, it teaches hate and stupidity. Well, maybe I don't want to talk about Trump. Maybe I want to talk about or Harvard. Maybe I want to talk about my history class. I'm like, the history class teaches this and that and this and that. Maybe I'm a teacher and I want to say, oh, today I was teaching that. So I'm also going to use these verbs in different tenses. So I'm going to talk about in the present, the future, the present. I already said that. And then the word should, like you could say, okay, maybe I'm talking about, I have a toxic mother-in-law, right? I could be like, my mother-in-law shouldn't receive any more of my money, or I'm just trying to make these useful, right? Or my wife or husband should cook more, right? So you can just take all these different verbs, add in your own verbs, add in things that are useful to your life. You might not care at all about this topic, but you do care about these verbs and how it applies to you. Federal funding. So funds, you can think of like, hey, the funds in my bank account are low, or you could say, I need to increase our funds and our small business that we have. So think about how you can take these words just from one sentence and master it. Like you want to take one sentence at a time, completely master it, because I would go to articles not because I cared about what was going on necessarily, but because I wanted to learn words that I didn't know where to get them from otherwise. And sometimes we can get caught up in like, we'll take this like, oh, Spanish vocabulary book, and we'll like go down the list. But it's a lot easier and more practical to go to something like an everyday news, things that are happening right now, and apply it to your own life. Hey, Wander with Marcel. This will be live probably for a few more minutes. I do plan on. So this is a new show. So for everyone here, I just want to talk a little bit since we kind of got through sort of what we were going to talk about today, what the show is, what it's about. So the Michael Harper Spanish show, it's something that I've been wanting to do for years now, actually, and I finally feel like I'm in a good position to where I can actually do it consistently. So I'd like it to be a good, 30, 45 minute, hour long show, probably daily. So probably 4 to 5 times a week. I still don't know what time I'm going to do it yet. It's probably going to be, I like this time at 2:00 for me personally, but it might end up being, maybe later at night. Maybe I'll mix it up. Do some days in the early afternoon, some days in the morning, some days at night. I'll just kind of go and based off what you guys say as well. And it's always going to be streamed simultaneously to YouTube and Instagram, at least for the time being. Once I get more people tuning in on YouTube, which I do have a lot of people tune in, which I really appreciate. YouTube's just a better platform in general to stream it on. So Carol asks, why no de in front of federales? Because if you were to say government funds, let me go back here. I'll show you exactly why. Let me delete all of this. So if I were to say, whoa. All right, I guess we're here now. You can tell that this is like me trying to figure out all of this software at once. There we go. If I were to say government funds, I could say fondos del gobierno. That's a great question, by the way, Carol. Fondos del gobierno. Or I could say fondos gobernales. So it's the difference between saying funds of the government, like government funds, or governmental funds. So when you say fondos federales, you're saying federal funds. You're not saying like the funds of the federal government. You could say fondos del gobierno federal, or you could say fondos federales del gobierno. So I hope maybe that helps you kind of understand why it sounds like that. GMT. So I'm in Eastern Standard Time, so it's 2:44 Eastern Time right now. Let me know, you guys, please let me know right now in the comments what your time zone is, and then what time you'd prefer the show to go live. Because again, this is the first show. I'd like to do this on a daily basis. So what time do you guys prefer? It's for you guys, obviously. I'm glad you're here, Wander. Yeah, these live videos, unless this new platform screws me over, which it could, I haven't quite figured it out yet. It should automatically record and upload to YouTube and Instagram, I think. If you haven't already, guys, as well, check out my free training if you want just a little bit more in-depth on my methodology and strategies to becoming fluent in Spanish this year. It's broken down in a much better presentation than this one was today. So you can check that out in the first link in my bio on Instagram, or you can check on that link in the description of the YouTube video if you're on YouTube. But we can hide that now. Oh yeah, lunchtime in Pacific time. Yeah, I'm actually curious if you got. I think I have more followers from the Pacific than Eastern time, which is kind of interesting. So it might be better around lunchtime to do this, like 11, 12 Pacific time. Okay, got a lot of comments coming in. See some from YouTube. Francis, 11:45 a.m. Francis, where are you at? Francis, are you in Pacific or Eastern time? Late afternoon and Eastern time. Yeah, Eastern times is good. 8:45 in Slovenia. Cool. Later in the afternoon. Awesome, guys. I really appreciate the feedback. I appreciate you guys being here, by the way. It's really cool to hang out with you guys and connect. Hopefully you guys, enjoyed enjoy this, like the idea of it as well. Any last minute questions, feel free to let me know. And these will get better, obviously. I'm gonna try to work out some of the kinks and things that didn't work after this ends. But yeah. So just to close out, guys, yeah, if you haven't checked out my free training, do encourage you to go ahead and do that. Also, if you're interested in my full Spanish program, A to Z Spanish University, and you're not on my email list, I'm actually running my sale. It's the first sale I've run all year. I don't do it a lot. More than 50% off the entire program. It's until Sunday. But if you haven't signed up for that free training yet, and if you're not on my email list, you won't know about that. But you will still get the same discount for signing up for the free training. And if you want more info on the Spanish program, at the end of that free training, you'll learn more about it as well. So if you're interested in learning Spanish with me, that's the most all-in-one, in-depth, and in my opinion, the most efficient Spanish learning program out there. So, highly encourage you to check it out. Again, the free training link in the description on the YouTube video, or the first link in my bio on Instagram, and you can check that out. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys with the compliments, and I'm glad that it seemed helpful to you guys. I appreciate you, Leon, for being here. Francis, Tommy. Yeah, exactly, Tommy. So, like, explaining the uses of say, that's where, again, like my Spanish program, my teaching in general, I feel like I have an edge on native Spanish speakers, honestly, because I've been in your shoes, and I know what it's like to be confused by things like say, by things like the subjunctive. It's like if someone asks you, why is it this way in English? Your response a lot of times is just, I don't know, it's just the way that it is, right? Whereas me, who I've had to learn it myself just like you guys and master it, it's easy for me to kind of give you my tricks that helped me figure it out and how it was. That's why in my program, for example, is very straightforward. Like, this is just the concept of it. I'm not going to teach you like the grammar rule, because that can confuse you. It's like, here it is, here's how you use it. And then that's why you get, like, in my students, for example, I try to get people through the entire course within a couple of months, so that everything about the Spanish language within a couple of months, and not stretched out years and years. So I try to do it that way in my lessons on here, whether you are in that program or not. Hopefully it comes across that way. So, is it Latin American Spanish? I teach both. I don't. I keep my Spanish in my videos and lessons as like neutral as possible. I mean, to me, when I hear that question, it's a lot like, oh, is it British Spanish? I'm sorry, is it British English, or is it American English, or is it Australian English? It's like, it's the same thing. It's just different accents, sometimes different vocabulary words. Maybe there are bigger differences kind of than that in like Spain Spanish and Latin American Spanish, but when it boils down to it, I've been I I've lived in Latin America. I've lived in Spain. I've gone to different multiple Spanish speaking countries, and I've never had an issue communicating or understanding the people that I talk with in any of those countries, because I learned Spanish. I don't like when people try to make Latin American Spanish and Spain Spanish seem like two different languages. It's ridiculous. It's the same thing. What's up, Harper? What's up to you? Ya sabes cuándo será. I like how you corrected yourself there. Será la próxima clase. La próxima clase sounds a bit better. But probably tomorrow. I'm not sure yet. I'll try to post it on my stories. It'll be tomorrow at the same time, or tomorrow night. I'll see what I've got going on. I think that's a wrap, guys. We've been live for about 45 minutes. I'm really excited I've got tons of things planned for this show. So, not like today, we kind of had some Q&A, some listening practice, some reading and vocabulary. I'm going to try and incorporate some different ideas that I have. One of the things I'd love to be able to do is just like break down songs and movie scenes, but issues with copyright come up, and then you can really get messed up over that. So I got to figure that out. But at the end of the day, just the whole point of this is I want you to be able to come in here, Have something consistent where you can come in and practice Spanish, even if you don't know what to practice. Get some practice in, and get some ideas. Clear up any doubts that you have with the language as well, and just connect. Thanks, guys, for being here. I'm going to turn this off now. Yes, this will help as a beginner. Absolutely. It doesn't matter what level you are. I think that, for example, that if you're asking about the free training 100%, you can be a beginner, intermediate, especially if you're a beginner. Yeah, anything. It doesn't matter at all. I will keep them coming. Thank you guys so much for being here. Just the song lyrics. Yeah, I could do just the song lyrics, but yeah, I'll probably do that. Good idea, Tommy. See you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for being here. If you have any other questions or anything, feel free to shoot me a message. And see you in the next one, guys. Bye.